Hello, I'm Mark Forsyth and welcome to lesson number 13 on how to write English verse. This will just be a quick lesson on the subject of rhyme. And the most important thing about rhyme is that the word walking does not rhyme with the word running. Well, that's kind of obvious, but even though they both end with an ing, that's because rhyme always has to run from the last stressed syllable of the word. So in the case of walking, that's walk. It's walking. So walking rhymes with talking, or indeed stalking, or the sorry town of Dorking, but it does not rhyme with running. This is important. You just got to check where the last stress is. The word Chicago does not rhyme with below, but Chicago does rhyme with embargo and cargo because the stress in Chicago is on the middle syllable. That means that if a word is stressed several syllables from the end, then the rhyme gets longer and longer. So, for example, Macavity, as in the Macavity the Mystery Cat by T.S. Eliot, that's the stress is on the cav, and so you have to have the cavity, three-syllable rhyme every time he uses it. Macavity, there's no one like Macavity. He's broken every human law. He breaks the law of gravity. Generally speaking, when rhymes get longer like that, they start to sound a bit funny. They can make you laugh. There are whole comic songs and poems which are built on that principle. People like Tom Lehrer and Noel Coward made jokes based simply on the length of the rhyme. There's an old limerick about the pelican which goes, "A wonderful bird is the pelican. Its bill can hold more than its belly can. He can hold in his beak enough food for a week. I'm darned if I know how the hell he can." And the comic element of that poem comes entirely from the long rhyme. So if you start using long rhymes, you need to be aware that you're going to start sounding funny. You won't sound serious. There's one exception to this actually, The Voice by Thomas Hardy, which you can look up, which is a very sad poem which has long rhymes in it. But generally, they will become funny. Also, an important point with rhyme is not to paint yourself into a corner. For example, if you were to be writing a poem about me, who wouldn't, and you ended the first line with my name, which is Forsyth, with the stress on the second syllable, so ith, then you are kind of stuck because the second line is going to have to end with the Scottish town of Forsyth because there are no other rhymes in the world. Whereas if you end it with E or I or O or ear or something, ing, then you have an awful lot of options to choose from. But this also leads us to a final point about rhyme and writing verse generally, impossible about all writing generally, which is again best illustrated with Macavity the Mystery Cat. Macavity, there's no one like Macavity. He's broken every human law. He breaks the law of gravity. And then later in the poem, for he's a fiend in feline form, a monster of depravity. And later on, again, there never was a cat of such deceitfulness and suavity. What you can do is let the rhyme suggest lines for you. It's quite clear though that what happened was that T.S. Eliot thought up the name Macavity and then looked at all the possible rhymes and used them as inspiration to write those lines. So having worked out Macavity rhymes with gravity, what's the possible connection? You go, well, they're both, Macavity's a law-breaking cat and there's the law of gravity, so that joke writes itself, provided that you start with the, there's a parakeet outside my window. Provided that you start with the rhyme and then use that to give you ideas. And that way, what seemed like a problem looked at from one direction becomes a helping hand from another direction. And you can find some sort of connection between Forsyth and Forsyth. And that is it for the day. I shall be back soon, possibly doing villanelles, in which case you have to have some 19-line poem with only 2 rhymes in it. But until then, farewell.